What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are looking at a card from the Streets of New Capenna spoilers. This card is completely busted, actually. If you're not familiar, it's one of those cards that I'm kind of leading with my impressions, which I usually reserve till after I've read the card. It's incredibly powerful, and I think it may be ban-worthy. I think this card is absolutely insane. It's a 3-mana planeswalker that does a lot of things you want for a 3-mana planeswalker. But let's get into it. It's Nixilis the Adversary, who is 1 black and a red for a legendary planeswalker Nixilis, starting loyalty of 3, and it has an ability Casualty X. And Casualty, if you're not familiar, is a new ability that's coming out in Streets of New Capenna that says when you sacrifice a creature with power equal to the casualty cost, then you copy the spell that you're casting. And in this case, in Nixilis' case, Casualty is X. And as you cast the spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do, copy the spell, and the copy becomes a token. And it's a non-legendary token. So you get a non-legendary Nixilis token with starting loyalty equal to the power of the creature you sacrificed. So if you have an Egon, God of Death, or a or a Rotting Registrar in older formats, like big power creatures with downsides, you can sacrifice them to Nixilis to create a starting loyalty planeswalker that is very, very high, as early as turn 4 or 3. Like, it's good. It's a good card. But anyway, okay, that's all fine and dandy. But what do we get out of it? What are the effects? Because if the Planeswalker loyalty abilities aren't good, then the card can't be good. It's that simple, because that's the impact that it has on the board. So first things first, the +1, each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or a devil, you gain 2 life. Now, the +1, in my opinion, is where the rubber meets the road for most Planeswalkers, and is no exception. In this situation, forcing your opponent to either discard a card or lose 2 life is very, very meaningful. Now, 2 life doesn't sound like much, but you're going to be doing this every single turn, potentially twice each turn, once you have the token down. And so 4 life for 2 cards, or a combination thereof, is meaningful. That's a big deal. Like, losing 4 life every single turn starting on turn 3 is a lot. And as a result, your opponents need to address Nixilis, because that's just his plus ability. The -2, create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. These little devils are actually surprisingly efficient at what they do. In this situation, it can produce a body that can be sacrificed to other casualty effects for value. It can also get in for damage because it has a good death trigger, so your opponent may not want to block it. It also is a good blocker that trades with 2 toughness creatures. It can also ping down creatures like Thalia or Luminar, or not Luminar Aspirant, what's the one I'm thinking of? Elite Spellbinder, the 1 toughness creatures that are still running around in the format. You can ping them down with that sacrifice, and that means, or if you sacrifice that little devil, and that's good. It's just good. I don't know what else to say. And if you have starting at a high loyalty with the token, you can downtick 2 on the token if it's got starting loyalty of 5 or 6, and you can downtick it without much issue while you uptick your other one, leading to its ultimate, which is the -7. Target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. I love that, and I'm going to be aiming it at my opponent most of the time, because that hit for 7 is probably going to be very, very meaningful, especially if I've been successful at hitting them with the 1s over and over and over again with Nixilis. That's just fun for me, not for them. They're not having any fun at all. You also combine Nixilis with incredibly powerful cards, because the other factor here that's very, very meaningful is that this doesn't cost you mana each turn. This only costs you the 3 mana upfront investment in getting Nixilis on the board, and then you somehow need to protect him. Once you've done that, then that +1 is just gravy. It happens every single turn. So if you have other spells like an Invoke Despair or a Turgid's Lantern that you want to mobilize against your opponent to force them to sacrifice, or Long Reach of Night even, if you want to get saucy with it, that will force them to sacrifice resources or strip themselves of resources while Nixilis just keeps pinging them over and over and over again, it's very powerful. You're going to be restricting the resources of your opponent, including their life total, a lot with this card. So I think it's absolutely fantastic. There are also a lot of weird janky shenanigans you can do. Because the token is non-legendary, if you were to cast multiple Obnixili, you would be able to get multiple tokens, to the point where if you're going up against Obnixilis, I would highly, highly, highly recommend prioritizing the token over the original. Because the original can be resurrected with things like Obscura Charm. It can be recurred from the graveyard in various scenarios if you're destroying it with attacks, for example. You know, it can be returned to hand with any number of effects. Dryad's Revival comes to mind. But the token, however, will cease to exist the moment you've blown it up, and to boot, with it not being legendary, if they cast an additional Obnixilis, they'll get an additional token, and they'll get all of them. So there's a very real possibility with just drawing a second Obnixilis, they can go from 2 on board to 3, and that's scary. That's really scary, actually. And so that's an option. Now, if you think 3 Obnixilises, Obnixili? I'm going to go with Obnixili. If you think 3 Obnixili are scary, how about even more? Like 5, 6, 7 before the game is over, potentially. There is a combo that is running rampant on Twitter right now with Obnixilis and Asika's Chariot. This does work, and let me walk you through it. So what you do is you casualty something with Nixilis, you create the token copy. You're not really worried about starting loyalty, although there are a lot of good options that can start you with 3 or 4. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get that on the board, and then play Asika's Chariot. Once you're swinging with Asika's Chariot, you can make a copy of the non-legendary planeswalker token, because it is a token, and you can make a copy of any token you want with Asika's Chariot. So you make a copy of that planeswalker token, and I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, loyalty counters are counters. Shouldn't that token come into play with 0 counters on it and immediately die? That's actually not how it works. Because of the way that the casualty is set up, the token, and to be honest, I may get the exact, like, hyper minute rules lawyery wording wrong on this, but as I understand it, based on my research that I've done and what I've, you know, in some conversations I've had with other creators, as I understand it, the various MTG judges have come out and said that the way that it works is the token has its starting loyalty as one of its like features, one of its details that gets copied. And so if the token has a starting loyalty of 4, let's say, when you create another copy, regardless of what so you may have upticked it twice, so it's at 6, but if its starting loyalty was 4, when you create a copy of that token, the token's starting loyalty will be 4. And so you can, again, continue the upticks over and over and over again. So you can make an army of Obnixili, sorry. You can make an army of Obnixili and just +1 ping them all to death and ping your opponent to death over and over and over again. Just a death of 1,000 stings, with the -7 being the haymaker that you can deliver at the very end of it all. And you can also aim that -7 at yourself if you have plenty of life to spare and you need to draw some cards. So that's just good stuff too. I want to play Obnixilis in Jund. I want to play Obnixilis in Rakdos Sacrifice. I want to play Obnixilis in Grixis Control. I want to play this card in everything. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And I do think he's so fantastic, there might be a ban for this card. So if you want to craft this card on Arena, go ahead and do so. There is a non-zero chance that the wildcards will be coming back to you. Now, that's all conjecture. I don't know for sure, but I think this card is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and we're all going to want to get our hands on it. So that's been Nixilis the Adversary. This has been the Overthinking MTG podcast. I've been your host, Hammox42. Thank you for hanging out with me as we take a look at this very interesting, very crazy card. And I'll definitely catch you on the next one. If you wouldn't mind, if you're watching on the YouTube video, please like and subscribe. It makes a world of difference. And also, if you're watching on the YouTube video and you want to see, or even if you're not, but if you want to see my impressions of all of the cards that have been spoiled for New Capenna, I'm actually in the middle of a series over at Pizza Box MTG's channel. So please, 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 please check out the Pizza Box. Give them a sub, and if you want to see myself as well as Hollywood Pizza and Hearsay TTV talk about all the cards that have been spoiled, we have some fun. We have some fun with each other, and I think we have some pretty good takes on the cards, if I may say so myself. So please check that out. If you're watching on the YouTube, there will be a link on screen right about now, if there hasn't already been. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next one.